Hi, I'm former Buffalo Bills wide receiver Don Beebe, and you're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circling the Wagons podcast, because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo! Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo!
The Bills make me wanna shout!
Welcome to the Circling the Wagons podcast, a podcast discussing the Bills all year round with interviews, news, recaps, and insightful fan discussion. Most times. Here's your host and lifelong Bills fan, Nate.
Hey, Bills Mafia. What is up? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo Bills fan podcast. I'm your host, Nate, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a tremendous show for you. It is our first show back right before the NFL season, before the Bills 2025 regular season starts. We've got a lot of things to discuss. We have Dwayne Carter's injury. We have some news and notes going into the season from last week as far as, roster cut down. We have 4 players that will need to be replaced or will need to be cut before certain players come back from IR or suspension. So we're going to get into that and a ton of other things. So I'd like to welcome my co-host to this podcast, John. John, what's going on, man? How you been?
Doing great. Super excited. Football's about to start. Fantasy drafts are completing. I'm just ready to get going. Yeah,
I'm with you, man. It's crazy that it comes here. We talk about, the last podcast we did for the last playoff game all the way to like now. It feels like I know it was 7 months ago, but 8 months ago. It feels like it was just a little while ago, when you're back here in the studio with us. So thank you guys all for joining us. News and notes for this last week kind of came out of nowhere. And that was Bill's second-year defensive tackle, Dwayne Carter, tore his Achilles at some point, I'm guessing between, late last week, early this week, and he will miss the entire 2025 season, as reported by Jordan Schultz. So he was a third-round pick of 2024. Obviously a blow to the Bills' defense, not a starter particularly, but a young guy that had some potential, which I think, you and I liked what we saw in small doses. He was injured last year as well, so we didn't see a ton from him. But unfortunately, this was a guy that is penciled in kind of as the second string defensive tackle behind Daquan Jones. So it's going to be interesting to see how they, move things around. You're talking about a defensive tackle group that's already missing Ogunjobi for suspension. And now, instead of having Dwayne Carter in as their quote unquote veteran in the room at defensive tackle, they have TJ Sanders and Deion Walker, John. This is an interesting, defensive tackle group. The Bills did just sign defensive tackle Jordan Phillips again onto the practice squad. They did just sign also safety Jordan Poyer, which I'm not sure if we're going to mention that later on, so I'll mention it right now. But John, when you look at the defensive tackle group and you see Dwayne Carter's gone, I mean, how much does that worry you? Are you pretty confident in the guys that they have? Or, hey, maybe this is a good opportunity for the young guys to get a lot more rotation than they ever normally would?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it really stinks for Dwayne Carter. I know he's been, fighting hard in camp and everything, and I think he was going to be in this rotation quite a bit here, especially as they, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, they look like promising prospects, but they're rookies, and they tend to ease in their rookies. So I think it's a bit of a blow. We don't know how Daquan Jones is going to be. He's a little bit older. I like all these players, though. I'm not trying to downplay any of them. I wonder if that's why they added Jordan Phillips late on the practice squad, because they saw this coming. I'm not really sure the timing with that.
Kind of weird, because he's still not on IR.
Yeah. But so it would make sense to bring up Phillips to help fill that role while the other rookies come, play and until Ogunjobi is ready. But yeah, it stinks for Carter, and we've been through this with other players before, and it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree with you. I echo the same sentiments. It stinks about Carter missing the season. Agree. That's just, I mean, what can you do? It's like, these guys fight so hard in the off season and in training camp, and for something like this to happen right before the regular season, it's just heartbreaking. Especially, so you look at it from a personal standpoint like that, and you want him to be able to get his opportunity to play and see what he's got. Maybe he does show something that the Bills don't have, or makes a splash into something where because Daquan Jones isn't going to be here, maybe he becomes that guy where at the end of the season, you could have been like, this guy's going to be great in taking over for Daquan next season. But unfortunately, we won't get that point, or he won't get that chance, and we won't get that chance to see him. So you feel for the player. He said it was interesting with the Jordan Phillips signing. That kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't suspecting that, but like you said, maybe it makes sense with what happened. Maybe they knew in-house that this had happened, weeks ago. We just find out as we find out, but it could have happened a week ago, right? So they still have Zion Logue also on the practice squad, which maybe they bring up, or maybe it's someone altogether different. Maybe that's possible. Maybe it's possible they sign someone off someone else's practice squad, because they can do that now, right? Because if they bring them up from the active to the active 53, like there's that opportunity. So we'll see if they do that. But my guess would be, just logically, you bring Jordan Phillips up right away. You just automatically have a guy that's plugged in. He's played one tech. That's not his strong suit by any means. He's not necessarily that kind of player. He's more of like a penetrating 3-tech defensive tackle. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but we'll see where that goes, because I feel bad saying this, like I mentioned, but I'm kind of excited a little bit that the rookies are going to get more run, because I think in the long term, short term, you're going to take some lumps. You're going to get some bruises, just like anything, man. Just like when you start anything for the first time. But it'll be good for them to get that experience under their belt. It'll be good for them to make mistakes in real time and get coached up through that. And a lot of people are really excited about the Bills defensive line coach this season. Ryan Nielsen, I believe is his name. So I think if he's as good as people think he might be, then we're looking at a group that could, still look really well. Of course, unfortunately, they went down depth-wise, but, we will get, like you mentioned, Larry Ogunjobi back at the 6-week mark. And yeah, so we haven't really talked a lot about cuts or anything from last week, John. Not a whole lot of surprises. I think the biggest surprises were Tylen Grable and Maxwell Hairston going on IR. Obviously happy that Tyrell Shavers made the roster. But it's going to be interesting, John. So Tylen Grable had a concussion in training camp. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks. Maxwell Hairston, obviously with a knee injury, the LCL sprain, is going to be able to come back after 4 weeks. But that's when the 21-day practice window starts. So technically, they could be off the 53-man roster until week 7 or so, based on that logic. So, John, this is kind of weird, right? You look at the players. I was, when we first started talking training camp and 53-man roster cuts, I'm like, well, I think they're going to have to choose between Ryan Vandemark and Chase Lund. They didn't have to choose between either of them. They got to keep both of them because of the injury designations. Is there a player that you see when Michael Hoyt comes back, when Larry Ogunjobi comes back, when Tylen Grable comes back, when Maxwell Hairston comes back? Those are 4 players. It's hard for me to find 4 players to cut off this roster. But, I mean, what are some of these names that you're looking at? You're like, I could see them potentially cutting him, depending on how the season goes or where they sit right now on the roster.
Well, first of all, this is an easy and hard question at the same time. Because they kind of have the luxury of waiting 4 to 6 weeks before they make these, so they can see how their other players are playing. But as it stands right now, I mean, Curtis Samuel would be up there for me, but there's that whole dead cap thing, right? So that's kind of tough. But he's been hurt a lot. He's not available, so it's not sure what you do there. You mentioned guys like Lunt and Vandemark. Maybe they trade one of the guys. That's possible.
I could absolutely see Bean trying to trade one of those two. More likely Ryan Vandemark, because he does have starting experience.
Right.
Yeah,
Lunt's he's a rookie, so he's 6th-round pick, so I mean, they're not gonna.
And Tylen Grable, when he comes back, he kind of fills that Ryan Vandemark role on tackle. So I think that there'll be injuries throughout the season to all teams, right? So someone loses their left tackle, all of a sudden Bean's like, hey, I'll give you Ryan Vandemark for a 5th-round pick, and also I get to free up a roster spot for one of these 4 players to come back. That's a good one. I think that's a possibility. I also think, like we just mentioned, Jordan Phillips, whoever took takes Dwayne Carter's role. I mean, if they're not playing great, I could definitely see whoever that role is, being relegated back to the practice squad. So that's 2.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, maybe you pick a receiver. Maybe they go down to 5 wide. Elijah Moore doesn't make a big splash and is ineffective, and you pick him just because Samuel's a bigger cap hit.
Does this make you think? You just made me think of something, that when the first 4 or 5 weeks, specifically the first 4 weeks, we should really be paying attention to who's on the inactive list each week.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like more so than any other. Otherwise, it's like, Tyrell Shavers or Joe Andreessen is on the inactive list, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, who cares? Like, they just didn't need him this week. This year, it's completely different. Now, those guys are the most likely to be cut candidates, I would think, unless it's just because those 7 players each week, you're looking at, who is it? Is it Tyrell Shavers that's inactive? Or is it Elijah Moore that's inactive? Or is it Curtis Samuel that's inactive? Like, I could see receivers being looked at, offensive linemen we just mentioned. You're looking at defensive linemen, maybe Landon Jackson is inactive. I don't think they would trade Len Jackson.
No.
But maybe it's A.J. Epinesa. Maybe they make A.J. Epinesa inactive, right? Like, then it would kind of lead you to believe, Shaq Thompson, I don't know.
I don't know about
I'm looking at this list.
Maybe Solomon. I mean,
maybe.
If you're looking at defensive end, either Solomon or Jackson are going to be on that bubble. Mm-hmm. Jackson's a 3rd-round pick, though. They're not he's not going to be like a cut.
No, Shaq Thompson could be one, because I don't think he plays a lot of special teams.
I don't know a lot about Shaq Thompson, but there's they did carry an extra linebacker there, which I was surprised. And then they got a couple on the practice squad too, and
Jimmy Charlo, man,
Jimmy Charlo,
Hard Knocks.
Jimmy Charlo looks good. So, and you look at the defensive backs, and it's hard to cut somebody there, especially with a Harrison injury. I know some of these guys can play nickel or safety. Like Cam Lewis can play nickel, safety, whatever. Like he's good. The Jordan Hancock, he can play multiple positions. He's a 5th-round pick. This is really tough. I'm not a big.
I don't feel like you can get rid of any of those cornerbacks. The only one I would even consider potentially is like maybe Jamarcus Ingram, right? Because I think it's easier to get him back on the practice squad than. And Dorian Strong, they're just not likely to cut rookies.
Yeah, I was thinking Dorian Strong maybe and get him on the practice squad if Harrison comes back. That could be a move. He's a 6th-round pick.
It does say a lot though that Tre'Davious White did not get put on the IR, designated to return. So we're hoping that's a week 1 start. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel good about any of those guys going down or being cut, because if Tre'Davious White goes down. Right. The only 2 guys that you have to replace him on the roster right now are Jamarcus Ingram and Dorian Strong.
Right.
That's it. It's not like they have Dane Jackson also, because if he was on the roster, you'd be like, he's the first cut, right?
Well, he's on the practice squad, so.
But I mean, there's I feel like it's slim at corner and safety. Like safety maybe a little bit more, because like you said, Cam Lewis can play safety. So John, if you're looking at that roster, DeMar Hamlin's the first cut, right? If you're looking at safety.
Yeah.
Easily. But, I mean, that's just for us. I don't think the Bills would do that. I think they look at him as a potential starter, good depth.
Yeah, I think we're putting a lot of faith in Cole Bishop working out. If he doesn't, there's a little bit of fallback opportunity for like Jordan Hancock and like we've been talking about Ken Lewis. But Ken Lewis, I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can play anywhere. But like, I don't know if you want him like thrust into that starting spot either.
So, John, when you're not excited about Cole Bishop in general, does that have to do with how he fared against the Bears in that preseason game? Is it the fact that he's been injured for most of the last 2 training camps, or all of the above?
I think it's just the injuries that kind of hurt his development a little bit, especially last year. But I liked him. I liked him as a prospect a lot. So I'm still hopeful for that. But it's like, it's not a guarantee, I guess is what I'm saying.
So I was with you, like, in everything you just said. I was listening to Joe Biscaglia talk about the roster bubble last week, and he mentioned that the 2 plays where people thinks, now you didn't even mention the preseason game, so this doesn't directly connect to your thoughts on Cole Bishop, but his thoughts were, Joe B was like, if Joe Andreessen drops back a little further and, Cole Bishop gets more help on the inside like he's supposed to in these situations, then this play doesn't happen. Or if DeMar Hamlin makes a tackle, it's not a touchdown. Like, he did not seem upset at all by the game that Cole Bishop had. Because I know a lot of people that are listening, a lot of Bills Mafia out there, are just like, he looks terrible. But I think there's certain issues, there's certain times where he won't be put in those exact situations where he's lining up against, a really fast wide receiver or something, right? It's not necessarily what you do with your safety all the time. But it's interesting that I think I'm not set on him, John, but you know what makes me feel a little bit better is that you have Taylor Rapp, so that's the same, strong side safety or whatever you want to call him, just safety in general in the Bills backfield. And you still have DeMar Hamlin, right? So the Bills did not give up. They were like fifth they were the bottom 10 in the league in giving up 20-yard pass plays, 30-yard pass plays, and 40-plus yard pass plays. They were like bottom 10 in the league in all these categories. Like they were just not giving up anything deep for the most part. Like they were really good at that. The problem is, though, they gave up a lot of underneath stuff, specifically like 3rd and 12. Obviously, if they get a 14-yard play, that doesn't go on that stat sheet I just mentioned, right? So I was doing some research on that.
They're not.
So John, they haven't been good against a screen pass since the 90s. Awful. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you still have the bar, the floor is last year's safety tandem with Rapp and Hamlin, right? Because no matter what, they can go back to Hamlin if they wanted to. But I think the ceiling is so much higher with Cole Bishop just because he's young. He's so athletic. He's probably the most athletic Bills safety that we've had here in ages, even more athletic than Poyer and Hyde, at least based on relative athletic scores, blah, blah, blah. I know the injuries have definitely hurt his development. I think everything you said I agree with. The injuries more so his development. I think that really is where he's missing some like real time, training camp, scrimmage, practice, preseason action. But I'm still high on him. I think I'm not as worried because I know where the floor is with the safety group, and I think it can still be bumped up more. And it could be just a little bit more, or it could be the same, or it could be. I don't think it can be any worse than last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I might even have Hamlin 4th on the depth chart if you factor in Hancock. So there's options. I mean, if you had to pick one position or two positions that you're the most worried about, what would you say?
Safety corner.
It's still safety and corner.
If they didn't draft 2 defensive tackles this last draft, it would be defensive tackle for sure. But
let's say Harrison was healthy and Cole Bishop works out. Like, what are you thinking after that?
Oh, okay. So neither of those two. Wide receiver, only because we're not sure if Khalil Shakir is even going to start week 1. And then you have Keon Coleman, 2nd-year wide receiver, Joshua Palmer, free agent. So not a ton of chemistry there. Curtis Samuel, so injured, hardly has any chemistry with Josh Allen. Elijah Moore, free agent wide receiver, almost no chemistry with Josh Allen yet. And then Tyrell Shavers, guy that's a fan favorite. He's not really proven, though, but he does have some experience with Josh Allen. So I'd say the wide receiver core is the next one. Do you want me to give you another one or just that one? Just one more.
Oh, that's fair. I think Keon Coleman is going to break out this year, in my opinion.
You drafted him in your fantasy league, didn't you?
And I don't have any shares of Coleman, but I think Palmer's going to be fine. I'm already done with Samuel, and I liked Moore as a prospect, but I haven't seen him do a whole lot here. So I think he's going to be buried on the depth chart. I love Tyrell Shavers. I think he's our 4th best receiver, but
interesting.
We'll see how that goes.
4th best talent-wise or 4th best ability-wise or all of these? Because he can play any position.
No, he's the 4th best one. I put him, I'd go Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Shavers.
Yeah, I like it. Now it seems kind of stupid that we were even thinking that there was any way that he wasn't going to make the roster, looking back at it, he was always going to make it.
If he didn't make the roster, I would have flipped out.
I think you and half of Bills Mafia would have erupted if he didn't make the roster. Yeah. So do you think? So I mentioned wide receiver. Is that your biggest area of need after cornerback and safety, or are you thinking it's some other position?
You're probably thinking the same as me. For the next one is probably pass rush.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like Joey Bosa. If he's healthy, I think we're fine. If he's not, then I don't know. He's healthy now.
on that field, just to go out and
Right.
call a coin toss or whatever.
Well, because
It rolls an ankle.
you got flashbacks to Von Miller, right? We got Von Miller. Great. He's doing great. He's playing really well. And then he got hurt.
The guy hurt. Yep.
And then it wasn't as good. So it's going to be the same kind of situation. As long as he's healthy, it's going to be great. But if he gets hurt, then it won't be.
I think it would stink. I think what they're going to try to do is put Joey Bosa on a pitch count throughout the season just to limit, the amount of snaps he gets. So I think you're going to see a lot of Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa, but then I think it's going to be a lot of A.J. Epinesa this year, but
Eventually, Michael Hoyt.
Which I'm excited to see what he brings to the roster when he's off that suspension. So.
And then what Landon Jackson, if he gets enough reps and can come up to speed, I know we didn't see much of him in the preseason, but he was on the field and we just didn't do a lot. But third round pick, it's a little bit of development. And then Saltman's been a fan favorite. It'd be interesting to see how he does too.
I'm kind of hoping that he does get more pass rushing reps this season in some sort of rotational role. I think what he needs is, I don't think he's the first guy out. Obviously, it's going to be, in an ideal world, Rousseau and Bosa for obvious pass rushing down.
Right.
And then I think when one of those two guys needs a breather, it's Epinesa. But then if that other guy needs a breather also, I think that's when Solomon comes in. So maybe it's only a handful of snaps a game, potentially, right? If that. But because he just hasn't proven to do a lot in the run game yet. But I think he comes in before Landon Jackson. I haven't heard anything positive or truly negative about Landon Jackson. But if you think about it, if you're listening, you're paying attention to training camp reports and preseason, if they're not talking about you a lot, especially as a rookie, it's because you're not making yourself noticed. And he just hasn't, which isn't bad. It's not great, but you don't expect all these guys to flash, right?
It's like the defensive lineman is like the opposite of the offensive lineman. If you hear the offensive lineman's name, then it's bad. Really bad.
Yeah, exactly. Good call. So, yeah, I think I'm excited about that group, but it still lacks something. And luckily, I'm glad you mentioned Hoyt, because I think that's a guy that could give that group a little bit of an oomph, after six weeks in that area. So it'll be interesting. So yeah, we mentioned like guys that could potentially be cut, someone from the wide receiver group, someone from a trade, potentially from the offensive lineman group. And that doesn't even include, like, let's say somebody goes on IR from both of those groups, then, that's obviously, hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But, we're the Buffalo Bills. So that could easily happen, especially right before the playoffs or during the playoffs when that happens. So did you imagine a scenario where the Chiefs lost Chris Jones in the middle of the season? That was essentially what the Bills losing Von Miller was during that, 2022 or 2023 run or whatever. He looked great. He was in for a double-digit sack season, and he goes out and he's never the same. And that was our best pass rusher at the time. I guess I just don't think of a lot of teams like Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions last year went down, and they weren't the same team. They were still good. The Bills were still good without Christian Benford, but they would have been so much better if he was playing against the Chiefs that last game.
Hey, Elam.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Don't get me started. John, I was having such a good episode until you brought up Kyrie.
Well, we traded him for a pick at least. The Dallas.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dallas is in shambles at this point. With the whole Micah Parsons thing. Gosh. Best defensive player in the league.
Are you upset that the Bills did not go after? I know. Are you upset that the Bills did not go after Micah Parsons?
They don't have enough money to do that now, but maybe if this all happened back in March, maybe they would have had a shot at it. But
let's say, because I was reading through Greg Thompson from Cover One, he's the salary cap guru. He was giving ways that the Bills could potentially make space for that contract, for a $46 million a year contract or whatever it ended up being. Let's just say that's off the table. If money's not an issue, and the Bills
if money's not
were
an issue,
able to do it, are you angry? Are you angry that they didn't do it because they would have had the ability to do it?
If they had the ability to do it, I guess. I don't know if they did really, because didn't this happen after the Cook signing? And they signed like 4 or 5 of their own guys this year. It was they spent a lot of money.
Again, money, throw that out the window. You could give up 2 first-round picks and let's say Ed Oliver, and you could get Micah Parsons, would you do that?
Ed Oliver? That sounds
what
like
they
a
did.
lot.
They gave away Kenny Clark. They gave away 2 first round.
Who's Kenny Clark?
The Packers star defensive tackle, man.
What about if they did 2 first-round picks and Dwayne Carter before he got hurt?
No, got to be Ed Oliver. Got to be Ed Oliver.
Yeah, sure.
Would you have done it?
Yeah.
Ed Oliver and 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons?
Ed Oliver is better than Kenny Clark. I don't know.
Ed Oliver's good.
First and a second, and Ed Oliver. Let's go. I don't know. Dude, I think he's the best defensive player in the league. What do you think?
I mean, didn't he just come back from an injury, or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't think so.
No? I guess that's tough, man. I wanted Myles Garrett. I wanted TJ Watt. Any guy that even comes up. So are you talking about a top 5 pass rusher? Absolutely. I do whatever it takes, because part of me thinks that it's easier to replace Ed Oliver than it would be a Micah Parsons-like player, right? So you just pay what you have to pay. You give away what you have to give away. I mean, Josh Allen has already proved that he can take the offense places without having a Stephon Diggs, right?
Yeah.
The defense has never had a good pass rush. So
it would make more sense to trade somebody like Epinesa in that kind of scenario, because you have Bosa and Rousseau, and you're bringing in Parsons. So you have like all these guys all of a sudden.
Yeah. That's a good point. You give away one of those guys too, just so you have room.
Yeah, I think the timing on it probably wasn't optimal for the Bills either, and the way their roster's been constructed. Like, not only is there a money thing, but then it's like, all right, well, how do we now all of a sudden we already brought in all these edge guys. We drafted Landon Jackson. We got Bosa came in. We have Rousseau. We just extended him. There's a lot to try to work out there. I think that's kind of tough.
Yeah, I think there is, but
at least Micah Parsons went to an NFC team.
Yes, thank God. Thank God. I could easily have seen him going to, he's now in the Patriots for the next 6 years. Like, oh, great.
Or the Chiefs, or whoever. The Chiefs.
So
the Patriots had the money for him, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Looking at the injuries the Bills have sustained this year, we mentioned Khalil Shakir potentially not being able to start week 1. We talked about Maxwell Harrison being on IR, Tyler Grable being on IR. What is it? Dwayne Carter being out. Like there's some injuries. Tre'Davious White, we don't know if he's going to start week 1. How confident do you feel about the Bills week 1 going against the Ravens on Monday Night Football? Or do you feel a little bit less excited about it, knowing what you know now? Not excited, but like less confident.
100%. I'm on board with the Bills here. So I'm not totally knowing the Ravens injury situation. I know Isaiah Likely is banged up. He might not start week 1, I think.
I'm not sure. I haven't even looked into the Ravens. I know that they're kind of banged up too. What do you think? Wait, real quick. What do you think who do you think's favored in this game in Buffalo?
Well, I checked a day or two ago. It was like Bills minus 0.5 or something.
They're now favored by 1.5.
Okay.
Who's the Ravens' second best pass catcher? Because he's going to go off against the Bills if it's a hobbled Tre'Davious White or Jamarcus Ingram or Dorian Strong playing against him. Who is that? Would you say that's Rashad Bateman? Zay Flowers?
I mean,
DeAndre Hopkins?
Their tight ends might have success too. Although with Milano and Bernard being healthy, like that might help with that, and Taron Johnson and all that. So that might help against the tight ends. So receiver, Bateman might be.
I'm starting my super parlay over here. So
okay.
SGP. So I'm putting in touchdown anytime.
We're talking about a lot of negatives here. Let's say, so what are your, like, outside of quarterback, what are your like positions of that you like the best on the Bills?
So this is that I like the best. Okay.
Yeah.
Quarterback's up there, probably number 1.
Yeah, outside after quarterback.
Running back, I'm very high on the running back crew. One of the best. I'd argue actually the best running back group we've had in a long time. Let's see. I like the offensive line group a lot. I honestly like offensive line and running back are my 2 favorite positions. And if you're going just starters, only starters and not depth, then linebackers are my favorite too because of Bernard Milano's health, like you just mentioned. So I take those guys, those 2 starters over, let's say, the the top 2 defensive tackles in Oliver and Daquan Jones. I like those guys. I love the starting duo of Bernard Milano, though. So I'd say tackle, offensive line, but tackle, and then running back, and then probably linebackers as my top 3. What about you?
I like that a lot. And I think I want to emphasize just like the offense and the number of players coming back from the offense from last year where they put up big numbers. And not just the starters, but the depth too. The quarterbacks are the same. All 3 running backs are the same. Fullback is the same. 2 out of the 3 tight ends are the same. The offensive line starters are the same. You still have Alec Anderson returning, Vandermark returning, Van Pranger returning. Is the only new addition. And then you look at receiver, you still have Shakir, you still have Coleman. Palmer is new, and then I don't know if you want to count Shavers as being new. He's been with the team for 3 years, so I think that consistency on the offense in general is going to pay big dividends for this year.
You think the Bills end up with the same, like, let's say they were, I honestly don't know off the top of my head if they were like a top 5 offense, but if they finished that in whatever ranking they did, would you think they would be the same, better, or worse than last season?
Well, I mean, if like you're thinking like points or like what are you thinking?
Yeah. Let's say points, yardage. Yeah.
Let's see what they did last year. Let me double check here.
Hold on, I'll find out where I'll find out where they were in points.
Yeah, they were 2, I think, after Detroit. Yeah, it was Detroit, then Buffalo, then Baltimore.
Yes, they were. They were second.
So I would think they would score at least the same amount. So they'd be. I think they're still going to score at least 30 points a game. They were one of 3 teams to score 30 points a game last year.
Okay.
I think they're going to do that again. I would expect that.
Okay, so just as good, potentially a little bit better. I mean, it is another year with these guys, so chemistry can only help. Yeah, John, I'm glad you brought up the chemistry as far as guys being there, because Joshua Palmer essentially replaces Mac Hollins, or Palmer and Moore, I guess, replace Hollins and Amari Cooper, which you could argue that, Hollins did have great chemistry with Josh for only being there 1 season, but he was only there for 1 season. It wasn't like this was even Gabe Davis, who had been here for 4 seasons, where this guy, is going to do just as well. So yeah, I think the offense, I think the Bills defense, though, I don't see it getting dramatically, but I could see it being, a step up with better positional coaching, which we mentioned, Ryan Nielsen. I'm excited to see that group. Just worried about the injuries, of course, and like you mentioned, the safety issues. So
yeah, I think
I'm cautiously optimistic about the defense.
Yeah, I agree. Cautiously optimistic. It really stinks that Harrison was hurt, their first pick, but linebacker looks good. I do like the defensive line and the additions they've made. It's just, can they put it together? Bosa stays healthy. Safety for me is still a bit of a concern, but they have options at least. What do you think about the kickoff rules and things like that?
You caught me in the spot. I'm trying to remember what the new kickoff rules are. Do you remember them?
Yeah, where it's like nobody can move until like the returner catches it, and it's like a certain they all have to be in a certain spot, and like if it backs and stuff. And
oh, okay. So it's the NFL's 2025 dynamic kickoff. The kicker lines up on the 35-yard line, and the kicking team's 10 other players start on the opposing 40-yard line. All players on both teams cannot move until the ball is kicked and hits the ground or is possessed in the designated landing zone. The kick goes into the landing zone, goal line of the 20-yard line, and is returned. Play continues as normal. If the kick lands in the landing zone but goes into the end zone, the ball is placed at the 20-yard line. Well, that's it. A traditional touchback places the ball at the 35-yard line. Onside kicks can be attempted by a trailing team at any point, but they must be declared. I like the idea a lot more because it encourages returns, right? Because you only get at the 20-yard line as opposed to the 35-yard line. I don't like onside kicks never being eyes, though. I guess I don't know if I do like them being only able to be attempted by a trailing team at any point. I mean, I've seen this happen, so it's all coming back to me. I like the idea a lot. It's just I think what they were looking to try to remove is just those guys running down speed for 40 yards and just crashing into someone, right? Here you only have like 20 yards to run, and you're automatically, running into somebody, so you can never get full speed really. So I don't know. I think I kind of like it.
Do you think the Bills are equipped to handle this change, especially considering
No.
in the past their coverage units haven't been the best necessarily?
No, they're not. No, I don't know. Their return, their special teams for a while have been pretty sus.
I mean, it's better than when the special teams was the best part of the team, back when Brian Mormon was their best player and all. But
yeah,
or like, Terrence McGee's returning, 5 touchdowns a season and this and that. But this is probably better than now.
I mean, John,
John,
we'll see what happens, because we didn't even mention like Chris Tabor taking over as a special teams coach.
True.
Over Matthew Smiley. So like there could be a huge increase in efficiency, and the special teams. We just mentioned coverage being a liability, and it is. One thing that does scare me though is the Bills were trying out kickers recently. They brought a few in, so that doesn't make me feel confident at all in Tyler Bass going into the season.
They did that a couple years ago too,
which is a big part of the Bills. Do you think they were doing it as just to be safe? Because they did bring in Gabe Davis, that he didn't leave with a contract.
Maybe it was like checking their options. Like maybe if he re-injures himself, then they're like, okay, we like this guy best out of those 3.
Good point. That would be very proactive, which I would not put it past. Obviously, put it past Brandon Beane to do that. So, good point. I think that you might be right there. But when you hear from the outset, you're like, wait, what do we not know about this? So, yeah, John, is there anything we haven't hit on specifically that you wanted to before the Bills-Ravens game? I think I feel bad saying this. We're diehard Bills fans. I'm trying to temper my expectations, okay? And I'll tell you why. The injuries, of course. But along with that, there's a chip on the shoulders of the Ravens. You think about the Bills bouncing from the playoffs. This is 2 times in a row. Lamar Jackson did not win the MVP over Josh Allen. I think the Ravens are pissed. I think they're going to come to Buffalo with a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to try to... They're treating this, like their first playoff game almost. And I wouldn't blame them for doing so. And if I were betting, I'd be less likely to bet the Bills with the points. So I know it's only 1.5 points. I'm trying to temper my expectations because I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Bills could lose this one, only for everything I mentioned. And it's just early in the season. Bills are going through so many challenges and hurdles.
I feel like McDermott does a really good job at having everybody ready for that first game, and they're at home to top it off. Like everybody's gonna be drinking since in the morning. It's gonna be 8:00 game. Like it's gonna be so loud in that stadium. I like our chances. I mean, you could look at it the other way too. Like like Bills and Chiefs, right? It's like the same thing, but maybe we have the Ravens number, even though the Chiefs have our number, like that kind of thing.
That's why I think the Bills always get their revenge in the regular season and never do it in the postseason. Maybe that's the Bills and Ravens. That's the Bills are the Chiefs to us, right? We're like the Chiefs to them, right? So they might beat us in the regular season, and then we'll beat them in the playoffs again. So,
well, hopefully we don't have to play the Ravens or the Chiefs in the playoffs.
I just don't like the idea that the goal, John. This kind of goes into the grand scheme of things, but when you look at this season, I know the goal is always a Super Bowl, but are there any other goals that you look at and you're like, that would be really important this season because they haven't been able to do that yet for the Bills, to accomplish in the regular season or, going into the postseason? Anything besides, going to the Super Bowl and winning it? Is there any other smaller goals? Okay. Because I have a couple. So,
all right.
So I think that you're like, nope, that's it. And I agree. You definitely want to win that Super Bowl. I think first thing is getting the 1 seed. The Bills have not done that ever in the Sean McDermott era. I think getting the 1 seed would be a win in itself because they've never gotten that. I think the Bills go so much further. I think their chances to get into the Super Bowl increase so much more Like not just like, oh, well, 5% more likely. Like it might be like 30, 40%.
Well, especially since you like
the one seed.
You recently, like, both the top 2 seeds got the bye. Now only one. And it's only happened since the Bills got good again. That has been unfortunate. Because they've been the 2 seed a lot.
Talk about a big kick in the balls there by the NFL Rules Committee. Yeah. Back in the good old days when the first 2 seeds used to get a bye. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Bills would be in there once.
Now they let the 7th seed shitty team come in that the 2 seed always has to pummel every year to get to the next round, which is usually the Bills.
Usually the Bills. But it's still one more game for an opportunity for a starter to get injured.
Right, you know, and it's like extra work. It's like
it's all that stuff.
It's pointless. I don't like it.
So to me, the Bills might not win the Super Bowl, but if they get the first seed, I think that's a huge step in the right direction. Obviously, the Super Bowl, you're always going to be disappointed every year if they don't win it all. I'll be less disappointed knowing that they can actually win the first seed. But that kind of goes against, the Bills not beating the Ravens week 1. You have to beat them if you want to get that 1 seed, in my opinion, because I think the Ravens are going to have a great season. So,
dude, think about this. Sorry to interrupt, but think about this. They get the 1 seed, AFC Championship at home to go to the Super Bowl last game at Highmark.
Oh, stop it. Stop it, John. That's, oh man.
That's the fairy tale ending for the stadium, right?
That would be incredible. You rip down the goalpost going to the Super Bowl. They got to demo them anyway. Just do it.
Exactly. Doesn't matter.
Tear the bleachers apart, the stands, just tear it all apart because it's going. That would be an incredible ending to Highmark Stadium, and I'll be that jerk on social media the next day saying, "Hey, are we sure we really want to demo this stadium for the new stadium? Because we just made the Super Bowl in the last stadium,
and then the next year would be the fairy tale at the new stadium and doing the same back to back, baby."
That I thought you were going to say that the next stadium is when they present the Super Bowl banner. And that would just like start the first game back. You have the Super Bowl banner.
I'm jumping ahead.
Being presented. Jumping ahead. But I do like the idea of them winning it again or going back again. Yeah, for sure. Cool.
10 times.
I also think, just beating the Chiefs, obviously in the postseason would be a huge win for McDermott. You and I have always been staunch defenders of McDermott. Almost to a fault at times because we just remember how terrible the coaching was before that for a long time. So we're like, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's hold on tight. But if the Bills go to another divisional game or an AFC championship and they lose to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in another way that's similar to the last 4 losses or whatever it was where the Bills defense lets them down or the coaching lets them down. I'm not going to lie, John. I might be starting to say, hey, like how many more times do we need to see this before we start thinking, let's get rid of McDermott? Like I've always been, had his back, but dude, 5 times, like okay, now we have to start thinking this might not be a Bills issue, especially with, Josh Allen being in his prime. That's you can't wait till he's 35 and be like, okay, you're right. He wasn't the head coach we needed. You got to do it. You got to rip that Band-Aid off sooner than later. So I'm hoping that won't be the case, but a lot of scenarios where that could potentially happen,
Here's a question.
Would you ever think that, like, if the Bills lost to the Chiefs in the divisional round of the AFC Championship?
I guess if it was the same thing as 13 seconds or something, like, I guess at that point, I don't know. I don't want to think about that scenario.
I don't want to think about it either. I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, but like, first goal, get the number 1 seed. Second goal, obviously beat the Chiefs.
So
those are 2 huge monkeys off your back. So
how would you feel if they went to the Super Bowl and didn't have to play the Chiefs? Would it feel like it was something missing there, or would you not care if they won the Super Bowl and didn't have to play the Chiefs in the playoffs?
If they beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, would I not care if they won the Super Bowl?
No. They did not play the Chiefs in the playoffs, but still won the Super Bowl.
Oh, and they still won the Super Bowl?
Right.
I wouldn't give a shit.
They played
don't get me wrong.
teams. Yeah. let's say the Broncos beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, and then we beat the Broncos, and then we go to the Super Bowl or something like that, right? Would you be like, in the back of your mind, be like, well, we didn't beat the Chiefs, or would you be like, fuck that, I don't care?
Well, I say I don't care. It'd be one of those things where you'd have to hear from Chiefs fans on social media. They're like, you couldn't do it. You couldn't go through us to do it. And I wouldn't care about that because just winning it is by far the most important thing. But John, you can't argue that it would be so much sweeter to win it after beating the Chiefs to do it, right?
It would be.
It would alleviate all doubts in saying that.
It would be. I think it's important to note, like, if they win it, it would be their first ever Super Bowl win, right? So, like, if let's say they won 3 or 4 already, even if it was 35 years ago or whatever, and then maybe this time around be like, yeah, it would have been better if they beat the Chiefs. But I don't think I would feel that way. I think I would just be like, they won, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially, like, let's say the Broncos destroy the Chiefs and it's like 21-7 or whatever. You're like, oh, the Chiefs aren't even good this year. Who cares? You would brush it off as not even mattering because you're thinking the Chiefs are going downhill. Who cares? We just won the Super Bowl. But yeah, I think just winning the Super Bowl would just matter. That's the only thing that matters. And then, you could dissect it. But I think, you and I, knowing you and I and most of Bills Mafia, like, there are going to be people that say, well, you didn't go through Kansas City. And we'll be like, who cares? Like, we lived through 4 Super Bowl losses. I don't care if they had to, beat a team of retired NFL players to win it. I don't care because they have it.
20 years of not making the
playoffs.
They
won it. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in 20 years from now, when you're looking at the Bills, winning Super Bowl, whatever, you won't be like, hey, but they didn't do this. You're just going to be like, they have a Super Bowl. Nobody remembers the pomp and circumstance around it.
No.
It's just...
No, they don't. That's a good point.
They have that Super Bowl.
It's just in that moment, especially with social media and stuff. Like, I think, yeah. Otherwise, like, back in the 70s, when somebody won the Super Bowl, they're like, well, you didn't beat this team in the playoffs. It's like water cooler talk. Like, nobody's really, it's a 5-minute conversation and it's forgotten.
Oh, yeah. 100%. You would talk about it, sure. Well, I mean, in my opinion, like, let's say the Bills beat the Chiefs in the divisional round, but then lost in the AFC Championship. Do I feel great about that? No. Would I feel better about the Bills winning a Super Bowl and never having to face the Chiefs? Oh, 1,000%. The best possible scenario is the Bills beat the Chiefs in order to get to the Super Bowl and win it. The next best scenario is the Bills win the Super Bowl. It's just,
right.
No matter what, they're both, it's like 1A, 1B.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, though. It's a good hypothetical. I remember Bill Simmons, reading an article about Bill Simmons, and I think it was the Colts, when they won their first Super Bowl against the Bears, he mentioned this thing where it was like a WWF or WWE wrestling match where, like, the Patriots and Belichick, like, run up to the stage during the Colts Super Bowl ceremony. They say, you didn't have to, wrestle us or beat us to get to get the belt. Because that year, I don't believe they had to beat the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl and win it. Like, it doesn't matter until, and then, like, after that, I don't even care. No one even remembers. I just remember that being a really funny visual, but no one cares. The Colts fans be like, whoa, we didn't beat the Patriots. They don't care. They don't care.
No.
Doesn't matter. So, yeah. No, good hypothetical, though. John, anything else before we end this one, before the season starts?
No, I think they'll go undefeated.
Yeah, you have called that. This might be the year for it. Bills have really good Super Bowl odds, so we'll see. The MVP is back. He's married. He's ready to go. He's got most of the same weapons in line and running backs in front of him that he's had. So the band comes back together. Hopefully they can do it another year, and the Bills get more healthy than they go less healthy throughout the season. It's going to be a fun, exciting season. So I'm looking forward, man, to discussing Bills games with you when we can, when they're not super late, and going from there. Well, there's a lot of primetime games, John, so we'll do the best we can. But thank you guys all for listening, for hit that like, subscribe, comment, all those things. We truly appreciate that. You guys following us throughout the years. We're going to do a giveaway. I have Bill's jersey that we're going to be giving away. I can't remember. I think it's a Cornelius Bennett or a Daryl Talley jersey. We'll be doing that for all listeners, everyone that leaves us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. And if you do one through Spotify, just send me a screenshot. Email me, ctwpod@gmail.com, or do it through social media. We're at ctwpod on most socials, so find us there. So thank you guys all for listening. The Bills season is coming. We're super stoked. Signing off for John. And for me, Nate, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.